Many Democrats in this chamber and their cheerleaders in the corporate media insist that we cannot examine Judge Jackson's record. They insist, in fact, that any scrutiny of her record, any difficult questions directed her way, and certainly any opposition to her nomination must be rooted in racism or sexism. Sadly, this is a common talking point for Democrats. Whenever anyone disagrees with them on substance, you must be a racist. If you're not a socialist, you're a racist. That's their standard go-to, and in this instance, all should acknowledge and should celebrate the historic milestone that would be having the first African-American woman serve as a justice on the Supreme Court. Given our nation's troubled history on race, that is a major and important milestone. I would note, though, that the Democrats celebrating that fact, patting themselves on the back, there's more than a little irony in their celebrating that fact. Because the reason that we have not to date had an African-American woman on the Supreme Court, a major reason, is that the Democrats, who are so proud of themselves, filibustered a qualified African-American woman nominated to the U.S. Court of Appeals for the D.C. Circuit. Her name was Janice Rogers Brown. She was a justice on the California Supreme Court, and 20 years ago, President George W. Bush, a Republican, nominated her to the D.C. Circuit. And Senate Democrats realized that a qualified African-American woman on the D.C. Circuit was a real threat to go to the U.S. Supreme Court. And Janice Rogers Brown is a conservative and a constitutionalist, and for Democrats, that was unacceptable. And so Democrats filibustered Janice Rogers Brown. Chuck Schumer filibustered Janet Rogers Brown. Joe Biden filibustered Janice Rogers Brown. Dick Durbin filibustered Janice Rogers Brown. Pat Leahy filibustered Janice Rogers Brown. Dianne Feinstein filibustered Janice Rogers Brown. So now all the Democrats who are celebrating putting the first African-American woman on the Supreme Court have themselves to thank for that, because it could have happened 20 years ago. But in Senate Democrats' way of viewing things, if a black woman or a black man or an Hispanic woman or an Hispanic man dare to disagree with leftist orthodoxy, they do not count. Indeed, it was not just Janice Rogers Brown. Democrats also filibustered Miguel Estrada to the D.C. Circuit. Miguel Estrada, an advocate with superb credentials, were criticized, as the staff for Senator Ted Kennedy wrote at the time in internal memos, quote, they should filibuster him, quote, because he is Hispanic. Mr. President, this was before your time and my time in this body. But here's what Ted Kennedy's staff told him. They, quote, identified Miguel Estrada as especially dangerous because he is Latino. That is racism, which the Democrats put in writing. If you're black, if you're Hispanic, we will target you, we will filibuster you, we will block you. And that's what they did. And for that matter, that's what Democrats have done for 3 decades now to Justice Clarence Thomas, one of the greatest justices to ever serve on the U.S. Supreme Court. And yet, in Democrats' minds, he is not a black man because he dares disagree with their leftist ideology. It's wrong. It's racist. It's cynical, and it's offensive.